Hey, black people.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ironheart.
Just to let you know, your girl finna be bigger than Jobs.
Right.
Bigger than Gates.
Right.
Bigger than Pym.
Right.
Now I don't think that's gonna...
Bigger than Stark.
Yeah.
No, see, no, that's not how this...
Combined.
My dear, you've got a Disney Plus miniseries. You'll be lucky if you're bigger than Agatha. I know they say it's good to dream, but my job is to crush those dreams. Patriarchy is my middle name, white supremacy is the name of the game, etc. So let's begin. Ironheart is a blissful look back at peak 2022 Marvel, inexplicably judged more deserving of a miniseries than Rhodey, whose Armor Wars show, or possibly movie, has been on hold longer than your average call to the bank. Riri Williams has been affirmatively actioned into both Wakanda Forever and now her own show. We could have had more of this. But instead, they've decided to give us more of this.
Nancy, what can I say about that suit that hasn't already been said about Afghanistan? It looks bombed out and depleted. And of course, the so-called beautiful. Why don't you click your heels together 3 times and go back to Africa?
That show was so legendary.
That might have to go in my Ironheart video as well. People are paid to make these decisions, and who are we to doubt them? In Wakanda Forever, Ms. Williams distinguished herself for her ability to make ludicrously important gadgets and also murder policemen. She cooked up a vibranium detector no country on Earth was able to make in about 5 minutes. She was recruited by the Wakandans on good old ethno-nationalist principles. She created possibly the worst looking suit in the entire MCU, with which she did mostly nothing. Then the Wakandans packed her off back to college and they kept her suit because releasing it to the general public would have been unspeakably embarrassing. And that's where we join her here, some 3 years later than planned, because the show was complete and Disney was contractually obliged to release it, so here we are.
I'm here because I can be the greatest inventor of my generation, which doesn't mean much without the resources to bring my ideas to life.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Much to learn you still have. Whether Ms. Williams will learn anything is, after a fashion, the subject both of this video and the show. A character beginning with hubris and jealousy, blaming others for their own shortcomings, has conventionally been understood as the beginning of a character arc. It's a flaw, and flaws are something to be overcome. They make for good drama. Modern Marvel, and modern storytelling generally, has, alas, decided to exempt women, minorities, and especially women minorities from this rule. Rather too often they're to be found complaining about cosmic injustice, and the show or movie of which they are a part then spends the remainder of its runtime taking their side and proving them right. They don't need to overcome, they don't need to learn, they don't need to improve, they were perfect from the beginning. Against the inevitable charge that criticizing this show, like its many forebears, is evidence of racism and sexism and bigotry and all the rest, we give a weary sigh and repeat what is by now an exhausting but still essential rejoinder. No, you twat, go stick your ladyballs in a ceiling fan. This approach does a disservice to the characters you claim you are supporting, because it denies them meaningful stories, and so their fair shot at popularity. Characters who are perfect and right about everything are flat and tedious, and no nobody likes them, because their writers and their fans think they are above the careful storytelling and character crafting that went into older, more beloved heroes. It isn't that women are shit, it's that movies keep giving us shit women. If you want Ms. Williams to be as well regarded as Tony Stark, you have to write her as well as Tony Stark was written. This is the job facing Ironheart. To pull it off, she must end by repudiating the sentiment she has just expressed. Let's see if they manage it.
Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? No shade. That's just the way the world works.
No, it isn't, and yes, he would.
Yeah, let's have it.
No, please, Mr.
Let's have it.
You don't understand. This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
It was quite an important part of several movies. Don't get me wrong, it's early days. I mean, fuck it, it's early seconds. But Ms. Williams now has two glaring faults that must be corrected over the course of this show: ego and stupidity. We've covered the ego point, so now for stupid. Tony Stark is a public figure. Tony Stark is probably the most public figure in the entire MCU. His story is well known in-universe, not least because he saved the universe. To persist in the belief just now expressed, Ms. Williams has to have neither read, watched, heard, nor thought about Earth's most beloved and recognizable hero, which is very silly given he's the focus of her aspirations. I know Harvard was recently sued for admitting people who can neither read or think. Ironheart confirms MIT is at it as well.
And the AI from my prototype already cost millions of dollars, which clearly I don't have. So yeah, my means of fundraising have been a little experimental.
Okay, so she's an egomaniac, she's thick, and she steals. What a terrific character. And we have to go along with the idea that a kid on good terms with the Wakandans who's able to build Stark-level tech in her spare time has not been snapped up by either the private or the public sector. There's just no money in AI, you see, fucking clown show.
But without real money, I gotta get creative. My method goes beyond rules and red tape. I want to continue Mr. Stark's legacy and revolutionize safety.
Revolutionizing safety is just about the least sexy phrase you can utter, unless you're a bureaucrat, in which case you have a whole deep skill tree of unsexy utterances to draw upon. But it's designed to tell us that, even though Ms. Williams is a stupid egomaniacal thief, she is in fact, really, honestly guys, she's good people. You see, she does all of these things for the right reasons.
My suits would shorten the response time of first responders, firefighters, search and rescue teams, etc. Working on this level of innovation does not come without risks.
She's such good people, but to be good people, she must sometimes do dumb, egomaniacal thievery, because nobody will pay her for her AI-driven doctor suits with the capacity to save millions of lives. Ms. Williams' risk-taking lands her in trouble with the university authorities, which we are told is a common occurrence, and the world is once again sacrificed for what this show considers a character establishment scene. Ms. Williams is scolded for having spent 4 years at MIT while making no progress toward a degree.
Due respect, Dean Troy, what do I get out of matriculation? Some job in Palo Alto with a tiny window and a bunch of guys I have to pretend to like?
As if you wouldn't already have been lifted straight out of MIT and made one of the best paid geniuses in all Silicon Valley. Apparently, it hasn't occurred to Ms. Williams that she has an instant solution to her inexplicable money problems. But you know what? A path forward might be emerging. She begins as a self-obsessed, naive moron who is somehow hella smart but also functionally retarded. Over the course of the show, she learns that opposition to the system for its own sake is infantile nonsense, and she stops self-sabotaging. She learns responsibility and teamwork, and she winds up lending her skills to those best able to make use of them. That would be a journey, and while that journey probably wouldn't fix the many problems we have already identified, it would go a very long way to redeeming them and making Riri Williams something like a character.
I want to build something undeniable. I want real-life scientific epiphanies. I want me to be small, but I refuse.
For now, though, she's just insufferable. And if the past is any guide to the future, this is how she's going to remain, while the entire universe nods sympathetically at her grievances.
Trash, and you know it. Who here asked you to be small? It's not a rhetorical question. I brought you here because the field would have devoured 15-year-old you. So we tailored a course of study to your needs. And I work hard to get qualified people like us into seats here. But you're making it impossible.
Not for nothing, but if you ask a question and you don't wait for the answer, it's kind of a rhetorical question, love. Also, what do you mean, people like us? Are you also a super genius inventor? Or do you perhaps have something more identitarian in mind? I think she might have something a bit more identitarian in mind. She's playing nice cop, you see, because Ms. Williams is people like us. Whatever that might mean, which is why she only gets a mile ticking off for selling coursework to other students for pocket money rather than selling her fucking AI to Google. Also in the room, though, is a white man, and the white man is not people like us, and this makes him a dick.
Quite frankly, you have been a horrible steward of Stark's legacy.
Who even appointed her the steward of Stark's legacy to begin with? I get this is something the show wants it to be, but why would anyone in-universe hand out that title to a random criminal? We'll be told later that she was the beneficiary of something called the Stark Fellowship, because the September Foundation grant has just been memory hold. We don't watch older Marvel films, so we don't actually know how this used to work. But it's not at all clear to me why she would have been left to matriculate in MIT rather than being taken straight to work at Stark Industries, given how everybody acknowledges her immense skill set and intelligence.
MIT has a zero-tolerance policy on plagiarism.
Well, evidently not.
Given your history here and the financial impact of yesterday's incident, it's too late.
You're expelling me?
Ah, yes, the financial impact of frying a couple of fuse boards is too great for MIT to cope with. No, a custom super AI and a bunch of Iron Man suits couldn't possibly offset the financial damage done by frying fuses. What even is the fuck? Nah, she's got no choice but to steal, guys. Speaking of which...
Why are you guys doing this to Riri?
We're just here to make sure she doesn't take anything that's not hers.
I would never. She built that with her own grant money.
I did that, right?
Here I go stealing again. I do like that the guards there to stop her stealing things were too busy telling a random stranger that their job is to stop her stealing things to actually stop her from stealing things. Gosh, she's just so cool. Via some attempted humor with the suit's AI.
Take us home, Trevor.
Home is not a known location.
Chicago.
Chicago is an American rock band.
Funny show. Via that attempted humor, Ms. Williams flies home to Chicago, Illinois, and we hop away to join some more thieves. Oh, wait, well, no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. No, we hop away to join some urban Robin Hoods, which is honestly one of the best euphemisms I've ever heard. I would have been proud to make that up, but I also would have done it with ill intent. It's one of those irregular verbs, you see. I am an urban Robin Hood, you are looting those Air Jordans. The urban Robin Hoods are led, somehow, by a character called Slug, who's one of those fancy dress types that Russell T. Davies hires to ruin Doctor Who. The urban Robin Hoods are currently being let down by one of their number, whose name is Stuart.
Stuart, my guy, what is the holdup?
This is Slug. You're probably going to be seeing clips of Slug all over YouTube for the next few weeks, because obviously you are. People will be very nice about Slug, and Az will absolutely not spend 10 full minutes of his video laughing at him or her. Nobody will make any crude or off-color or istophobic jokes about Slug. So let me be the first and only person to do a hate speech. What do you call a slug wearing a pair of Vans? A camper van! Zing! The urban Robin Hoods, I know, it sounds so racist, but it's not my line. They are looting some evil rich man's house, but because Stuart is useless, an alarm goes off. This gives us our first thrilling, high-octane action set piece, and Slug is just so very invested in the whole affair.
The alarm must have triggered a signal block.
The tension is positively impalpable. There follows a completely baffling cut that I'm pretty damn sure was supposed to have a scene in the middle of it.
Slug's gonna text you new pickup coordinates now.
Could we not afford to show them escaping? What happened to the fight in the mansion? Slug just told us the cops were on their way. How did they get everybody out of the mansion and into the van and escape the cops? Why didn't we just see them redecorating the van before driving off so we could at least have inferred they escaped in disguise? How is this the show? Didn't you have time to finish it? The urban Robin Hoods returned the van to some guy who I guess will be relevant later, but who isn't at all relevant at this time. This scene is here because they need to cross paths with Ironheart, and that is literally it. Words are exchanged, but nothing is said. Then they hear the insufferable music.
We need hardware for this one.
Bro, we gonna find someone in the next couple days.
And look, what's that in the sky? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a woman in STEM.
Text Xavier. Sure. Tell him to meet me at my mom's.
Now I'm just imagining Professor X rolling up the hood. Do people genuinely pronounce it Xavier in relation to any other person? It's Javier or Javier or Javier or Javier. I thought the X in Xavier was unique to the professor.
Thanos was just the beginning!
Oh, hello. Yeah, I mean, I agree. He really should have been the end. This is supposed to be a tense affair, life or death stuff as the suit begins to disintegrate whilst moving at high speed. But it isn't. It's none of these things, because Riri Williams doesn't really do acting, and the fucking music still thinks it's cool shit. I clapped when I saw the... What? When I saw the name... What? I clapped when I saw the name of the thing when she crashed on the pavement, and it made the name of the thing appear in the thing. Fuck, it's a new one. For some reason, Ms. Williams walks through the streets carrying her ruined suit, and a small urban Robin Hood offers to help her. So now there's a child in the show.
What does your mama call you?
Riri Williams. Bad girl genius.
Woo! Cause that is terrible. That's your introduction?
And this, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but it's in the show, so there's that. Riri goes to visit her mother and her sassy friends, one of whom deals crystal.
Which crystal is for wise asses who've been kicked out of school?
Black obsidian.
Do you see what I did there? We're 15 minutes into episode 1, and we're already a DEF-CON pun.
You knew?
I bribed the janitor there your first week to look out for you. We keep in touch.
That's funny, because where I come from, people just phone each other.
You know, Riri, black obsidian is also really good to have in times of grief.
I don't know what problem we're trying to solve by having this woman here, but I really do think we should have started with more basic fundamental problems, like, plot, character, world building, theme, and such. We could have maybe done something with those before we moved on to comedic beats involving healing crystals.
Hey, black people.
Fucking, it's a line. It's in the show. It's glorious.
Get back late. What? You can't just leave it.
I mean, it's Friday night.
I just sometimes wonder, whether I'm living in a simulation and it's running out of RAM. What just happened? Why is this the way the show is? What's even happening? What we've just had is a succession of scenes that are there to say, and apparently to say only, hey, look, these are people. These people are in the show. Maybe they'll be relevant later. Maybe they won't. Isn't the suspense wonderful? The heist that heist wasted nothing and went nowhere. The leader of the urban Robin Hoods who says thanks for the heist of whatever it was. Oh, look up there. The crash landing that introduced us to the child. The family reunion scene, which was mostly a nutter rambling about her crystals before she got interrupted by "Hey black people." Now, whoever the fuck this guy is, I think this is Xavier. However the fuck long later. So many people, and I know absolutely nothing about any of them. This scene here could have been the first and only scene after the crash landing. Have Riri not go home because she can't face her mother. Feature the mother in dialogue between these two in this scene, so we're learning about her by one remove, thereby accomplishing multiple things in a single scene. Have characters say things that mean more than "buy me crystal" and "hey black people."
So hot girls supposed to be at the clubs trying to get some drinks free, but you, Riri Williams, are making an...
Where's the camera going? Why are we off over here now?
But you are making an iron suit.
People are obsessed with them.
Are they though? Because, you'd think if they were, there'd be more of them around. What happened to Justin Hammer in the end? Why can't he have his own show? He was good. I liked Hammer.
I could build 1,000 other things and no one would care. But if I could build one of them better than everyone else, people got no choice but to respect me.
Which is funny because Riri here is basically just Hammer without the Riz, or whatever incredibly stupid people say these days. The motive is essentially the same. The suit is a means to an end, and the end is a claim and a satisfied ego.
Smarter AI, stronger armor.
Does that mean you gonna stick around Chicago to build it?
No, if I wanted something made in Chicago, I'd go back to the 1950s. Riri tells Xavier that she needs a job that pays, by which she inevitably means in due course petty theft, and she gives her reasoning. And I really don't mean to be insensitive, but I don't speak whatever language this is.
The lab's so massive they don't notice if I finesse a resource here or there.
She further complains that everything around here seems small, and notwithstanding the Batwoman caliber writing in the rest of the show, this does give me a teeny tiny little bit of confidence on the character side of things. Obviously the show isn't going to let her get away with dismissing her hometown and its people because it likes them. So by extension it means she's probably going to have at least a little bit of an awakening later on, right? She'll come to see that the value in seemingly small things far outweighs the glitz and the glamour she was searching for. Probably. Maybe. I mean, it might just be wish thinking on my part, but it could happen. Anyway, this part of the chat over, they drive off to see a mural for some poor deadens because stereotypes are bad, except when we do it. One of these deadens is the girlfriend from the prologue, and the other is some guy we've never met before, who I guess was Riri's father. And to compensate for the fact we know nothing about our protagonist except that she is a narcissist, we get a quick flashback montage while best friend guy, I think his name is Xavier, but I'm not completely sure. He tells us how lovely father was. Possibly Xavier tells us that Deaden Dad used to spend all his time working on a thing, and he gave that thing to Riri, but Riri says she doesn't have it anymore because she sold it for money to build her suit.
I sold it for money.
She built that with her own grant money.
I did that, right?
I remain utterly confused about who paid for what, but I'm morally certain that stealing is the only solution.
Sorry I wasn't there that night. Everything happened.
We're at the point where obvious bait lines are worthy of praise because they at least show a partial understanding of the most basic components in writing. In many other shows, this would stand out as a pretty janky line because it is quite obviously saying to the audience, a bad thing happened. Aren't you interested in what the bad thing was and why it made Riri such an unlikable bitch? But in this show, it constitutes the first hint hint that Riri might have a bit of depth to her character, and it stopped short of as you know exposition, like, I'm sorry I wasn't there that night when your father got shot by a racist policeman probably. It understands that mystery can be a useful tool, and given there's been absolutely nothing else to latch onto, it does a serviceable job. Probably Xavier says he made Riri a mixtape and he hands her a Walkman with some headphones because apparently it's still the 1980s in Chicago. This is another of those scenes that exists solely to say this will be relevant later, and if I had to guess, it means that probably Xavier is going to die at some point in the near future, and a sad Riri will lie down in her bed and listen to it and be sad because she's realized that her selfish actions have had terrible consequences for other people. This would be an incredibly generic beat, and it might still be too much to ask of this show. This show might do something crazy like have the Walkman feature the voice of the dead friend, which prompts a dream, which prompts Riri to accidentally create an AI of her dead friend. You know, we'll get there in due course. The point I'm making is you don't typically have friendly characters pop up pretty much devoid of context and say, I made you this object of sentimental value, unless you're going to use that as a cheap payoff later. Do please watch this space rather than the show. The next day, probably Xavier is back, and he and Riri are hunting through scrap metal for parts. This isn't an efficient use of our time because probably Xavier's immediate reappearance kind of robs the previous scene of some of its dramatic weight, and a tighter show might have instead looked to combine these two sequences into one, thus saving itself time for other things.
This will help build the hardware, but I still gotta figure out my AI.
I do not think your community has the tools to let you work on AI. AI isn't just a thing you can whip up in a garage, you know. For all the MCU seems to forget this whenever Riri Williams is involved. It actually requires immense amounts of processing power, data centers, deep learning models, and that's just to create a Goonabait chatbot anime girl. Lacking all of these things, Riri goes to visit a chap called Jim, whose job, like probably Xavier's earlier, is principally to invent a character history for Riri on the fly.
A little girl, 9, 10, you used to come in here and haggle with me. You always were with that best friend of yours. What was her name?
Natalie.
Hello, protagonist. I am old friend. Do you remember how we knew each other when you were younger and you used to come and hang out with me? That is, when you weren't hanging around with that other person who was your best friend. It's just that, but delivered with an accent that I'm not going to attempt to mimic because I guess that would be racist. Riri has come here to ask for a paid job, but before she can get the words out, she is interrupted by a new character.
You're joking. Not another one? Oh, for God's sake, I can't stand this.
Yep, another one. Are you keeping up? We've had Riri, obviously. We've had dead best friend. She's called Natalie. We've had kind diverse professor. We've had evil white professor. We've had Slug. We've had Stuart. We've had the rest of the urban Robin Hoods. We've had Mother. We've had Crystal Dealer. We've had Small Child. We've had implied leader of the urban Robin Hoods. We've had Jim. We've had new best friend, probably Xavier. We've had dead dad. We've had, probably some others that I've already forgotten, and now we have this guy. I genuinely don't know most of their names, and that's because they've all been introduced within a span of about 20 minutes. And I don't even remember people I like if they all come at me at once. I'm beginning to get the impression that this is a very, very unwieldy show. New guy pays for whatever it is Riri and friend were presumably buying earlier, which I'm quite sure is the last time any character in Ironheart will pay for anything that they take, and then he joins in the fun old protagonist backstory exposition extravaganza that every other poor fuck has been roped into already.
Couple years ago, could not open the local section of the trip and not see a story on her. Finished 9th grade at age 11, started college at 15, and here she is, in your shop all grown up.
We already know she's a genius child prodigy. Damn near every scene has told us that. Either tell us something we don't know or tell us something about somebody else, because we don't know anything about anyone else. And at this point, frankly, anyone else is more interesting than Riri. Out on the veranda, New Guy asks why Riri isn't working for Stark Industries. It is a very good question. There is no satisfactory answer.
How come you're not working at, like, I don't know, Stark Industries or something?
He contributed immensely to the field, so I won't roast Tony Stark off rip.
Thanks for confirming you know as much about this guy as we do, which is to say naff all. But what do you mean you won't roast Tony Stark? I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if his foundation funded your education, you ungrateful cow.
I don't have $1 billion, and I can't compete without resources.
In a cave!
I know, the fuckery's gone in through the eye hole and straight to the brain. New Guy says he couldn't hack it in gainful employment either, and he invites her to meet another guy at a pizza parlor. This means that, yes, all the governments, all the intelligence services, all the private companies in all the world are entirely disinterested in this super genius, but random urban Robin Hooders, no, they'll snap her right up. And this takes us to the elevator scene from one of the trailers. The elevators stops, a mysterious timer goes off, and smoke starts venting from a device.
Welcome, Riri. In less than 3 minutes, the air in this elevator will no longer be breathable.
Oh, good, it's that Saw sequel that nobody wanted. I hope she fucking dies.
This is illegal!
It should be illegal, yes, but it's currently streaming on Disney+. Ms. Williams' task is to break into a thing on the floor to retrieve a gas mask, and she has to do this within 3 minutes or else she'll suffocate and die. It is quite literally a ticking clock scenario, and the conventional use for a ticking clock scenario is to plant stakes and drum up tension. Ideally, we give a shit about the character who's in danger, which is unfortunate because Ms. Williams is about as endearing as a colonoscopy. But we don't get any time to feel anything either way because the writers have chosen to break another rule, the mystery component. We can already be quite sure that the mysterious stranger from earlier is involved since he's the one who invited her here, but we don't know why or for whom, and we don't know how dangerous he is. That level of mystery might have sufficed to make this elevator scene better, but the writers don't think that's the case, and so we get cutaways to the people watching it all unfold.
Duct tape. Totally. I get Weekend Warrior vibes from this one.
What's the haps, lads and gals? It is I, the Weekend Warrior, once again gracing you with my presence.
Poor Weekend Warrior, leave the guy alone. He's not part of your fagrobatic society.
Sweats almost as much as you, Stu.
It's Rampage.
Oh, baby, no.
Nah, dog.
Apparently, this is Rampage. We probably could have kept this group's whole introduction until after this sequence to symbolize Ms. Williams entering a new and more dangerous world, with each of them seemingly threatening and aloof until over time she comes to know them better, and we learn about them and come to sympathize with them alongside her. The problem is that we've already seen them, so we already know that they are an insane clown posse, and so this entire bit has no weight whatsoever. What are we doing here? Her thing is supposed to be that she's super smart. She can make Iron Man suits and AIs. I think an Iron Man suit is a bit harder to figure out than anything in that elevator, so why is she brute forcing her way out when she's not a strength class?
I heard Riri Williams was a genius, but I said to myself, Parker, you gotta meet this kid up close.
This man is Parker Robbins, otherwise known as The Hood. I prefer The Hood from Thunderbirds because he's more menacing and he has a greater dramatic range.
At last, I have the information I require. And now, the secrets of international rescue. What? I don't believe it. You stupid, foolish, idiotic failure!
Riri asks him why he did all that. The Hood says, it doesn't matter. What matters is I heard you were a genius, and now I've seen you not use your genius to escape my little trap, so join me and together we can rule the galaxy as Dumber and Clunge.
You beat Stewart's time.
Who is Stewart?
Present.
Stuart Clark? Like the Aura X fellow at Rampage on the Tech Makers Discord?
Enchanté.
I don't understand what any of those words mean, but I'm pretty sure lots of people are very happy. Comics Rampage was a sometime supervillain, sometime homeless guy with exosuits and vengeance, and his only friend in life was the fucking Punisher. All that sounds incredibly dull, I'm sure you'll agree. So having him instead be a sweaty nerd with an afro who is renowned on a Discord server is obviously an upgrade. Well done, writers.
Riri, I see you. I see you fed up with mediocre folks taking your spot, mediocre institutions rejecting your genius.
Who? Which mediocre person has taken what spot from her? The girl's a discount DEI Tony Stark. She is mediocre. She is the meatiest of all the ochres. And she was somehow given grant money and a fellowship and an unlimited stay at MIT. Whence your giant chip, lady?
Of making yourself so small to fit inside those awkward boxes they put you in.
No, she put herself in it. She made the suit. She stole the suit. This is very much a her problem.
You know, when you're ready for the respect and the money you deserve, come work for me.
Or Google, I'm just putting it out there. Google has a lot of money and it pays pretty well. I really don't know why you haven't considered Google. Google does evil shit all the time. You'd fit right in. Riri says, nah, I'm out. And the Hood says, essentially, what's the going rate for genius prostitutes these days? And he pulls out a small box full of cash. This quite clearly turns Ms. Williams on. And she pulls a face that says, oh, shucks, I'm gonna be a whore. The Hood says she'll get paid even more if she gives them 3 jobs. I mean, if she does the next 3 jobs for them. Jobs that will quite obviously be illegal, which Ms. Williams will quite obviously give not one solitary shit about because she is such good people.
Look, I don't want to hurt anyone.
I don't believe you.
Last one, Riri!
Believe it or not, jail, right away.
Black lives good, blue lives bad, I guess.
Okay, so what do you do?
Theft, extortion, breaking and entering.
We must be working on a very, very, very specific definition of hurt for none of these things to count.
Why?
I'm sure you have a good reason why you do what you do, and I have reasons of my own.
God, we're doing a lot of damage to Ms. Williams here. The Hood isn't yet a character, and if the show wants us to sympathize with him in any way, I've not yet detected an appeal. But for Riri to go along with this, asking no questions, not knowing the reason why, not knowing the moral justification or the end goal, then she is, at best, psychopathically amoral. What has essentially happened here is that the Hood has said, hey, let's go looting and pillaging. That's how he sounds. Then Riri said, why? Then the Hood said, it doesn't matter because money. And the prospect of money is so alluring that Riri turned into the Niagara Falls and she said yes. Sloppily.
Now, you could try to get this cash out there, but you already know what it's gonna come with. Red tape, delays, strings attached. Join me, and I will give you the tools to help you carry out your vision. ASAP. So you in or out?
Better be worth it.
I think I hate you, Riri, and I don't hate a lot of people. I reserve that level of animosity for the only class of person as keen on stealing things as you are. They're called the government. The Hood says it'll definitely be worth it, but they're going to need her Ironheart suit fully repaired and ready for the first mission, which takes place tomorrow. Riri goes home to build it from a box of scraps because symbolism. While she works, and this is such a slow process that I do not believe she she can possibly do it in the time allotted, she listens to that mixtape that Xavier gave her, and it contains an audio log from her dead sister Natalie, which means we get a bunch more flashbacks, or a bunch more of the same stuff we've already seen, in case we'd missed the fact that dead sister Natalie meant a lot to Riri. I'm not entirely clear, by the way, if she is like sister biologically or sister in like the slang "you're my best friend from the hood" sense. It could be either, could be neither. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. The show is not confident that every other flashback sequence has sufficiently established Riri and sister's relationship, so this beat is here to smash you in the face with the brick of subtlety. This one extends into a scene that makes you wonder whether her dad being dead might be partly her fault, as she lectures him, he is a mechanic, on how to do his job. They literally get you from anywhere to swap it.
Okay, but did you hear me out? An LS one-cylinder head can literally get you anywhere from 10 to over 50 bhp extra.
Maybe he's not dead. Maybe he just left because you're a cow. Anyway, having established once again that she is a genius, the happy memory takes a turn for the worst as sounds of gunfire and shouting erupt, and the frame rate drops to signify drama. Riri takes off the headphones before the urban Robin Hoods or the police, whoever it is, murder her father and probably also Natalie. This being our allotted 5 minutes for character work, Riri and her mother then have a fight about the terrible state that her mother left the garage in. Very little is actually expressed here. Her mother says she didn't know Riri cared about the garage. Riri tries to guilt trip her because she's good people.
So now it's my fault that you let Gary's dream die.
Her mother attempts to de-escalate, and then an interesting thing occurs. Quite clearly, Riri said something incredibly hurtful in response. You can tell that from the door slam and from the shocked and hurt look on her mother's face. But what seems to have happened is that the writers decided whatever Riri said took things too far, made her seem like an unlikable bitch. Perished the thought. So they swapped out whatever the line was, and they ADR'd in an incredibly generic response that doesn't explain the mother's reaction.
Forget it, I'm going to my room.
I wonder what she said originally. Actually, fuck it, I don't. That was just me rhetorically wondering. It's Ironheart. I don't give a fuck. Over with the urban Robin Hoods. The Hood chats to one of his incredibly generic fellow goons, and we glean A, that they are about to urban Robin Hood someone called Sheila. B, that this 3-mission plan has an ulterior motive, which is to draw them out, whoever they are. And C, that the Hood really needs to get those tattoos looked at because they seem to be infected. Then we hop back to Riri, who now isn't in her room at all. She's returned to fixing her suit, which makes me think now that the entire mixtape scene was added after the fact because it doesn't fit at all. There are parallel manufacturing scenes occurring, Riri rebuilding her suit and generic goon doing something to the Hood's tattoos. We went from manufacturing scene A to mixtape scene D to parallel manufacturing scene B back to manufacturing scene A. I don't know why they did this. I don't know why they didn't have the mixtape scene after the manufacturing beats, providing a bit of bathos and intrigue to end the episode with. Almost makes you think like they're totally fucking incompetent. Riri's suit fix, which she seems to accomplish by connecting her galaxy-sized brain directly to her computer, requires 4 hours to complete, which will probably be relevant in a future episode, as will the smelling salt she conspicuously picked up for no particular reason.
Smelling salts, in case of who knows.
I think I do detect me some Chekhov smelling salts. We see then that the Hood seems to have urban Robin Hooded Doctor Strange's cloak from somewhere, so that's mysterious, and it means that the Hood is probably magic. We get even more dead sister flashbacks. Riri falls asleep, and then she is woken up by...
Riri, tell me wake up.
Hell no.
So, just to get this straight, she connected her brain to her laptop. She fell asleep. She dreamed about her dead sister. And because she dreamed about her dead sister while her brain was connected to her laptop, her dead sister is now a holographic AI assistant?
Natalie? Who the hell else would it be, bitch?
Listen, it's a known risk, alright? I once went to sleep with my brain attached to my computer and I woke up to find the naked Timothy Chalamet flying around my living room.
The spirit's out and they don't have nowhere to go.
Oh, Thomas, don't let it get on the curtain. I'll open a window. You try to chase it out, Thomas.
Go on now, soul now.
Here, spirit, come out the window. I'll give you $350.
Now don't go offering the soul no $351.
I'm just trying to persuade it.
Anyway, that somehow is the end of episode 1 of Ironheart, which in the grand scheme of superhero media probably ranks closer to Batwoman to anything we've seen since Batwoman. It is Black Woman, if you will. Being a nice and charitable sort, I do not consider this show to be irredeemable yet. It just has an awful lot of redeeming to do and not very much time in which to do it, and the list keeps growing for every new scene it gives us. I think it already has too many people in it for them all to become characters, and it is generally inadvisable to end your first episode with the audience knowing fuck all about any of them. This is especially true when the only things we really do know are about the protagonist, and damn near all of those things are bad. Redemption will require winnowing the cast down, preferably through a good number of deaths. Riri must very quickly be shown forming doubts about her alliance with the Hood, because having her doubt the morality of his urban Robin Hoodery will tell us that somewhere beneath the psychopathic narcissism, there is good in her. Some reason for her apparent hatred of Tony Stark, and indeed of all things good, will have to be at least teased in the next episode, and the show will have to make clear sooner rather than later that this is among the flaws that Riri has to overcome. We need to stop jumping between groups of people unless there is a real point to us seeing them in order for something like a through line to emerge. Balked attempts at humor should be swapped for conversations that actually convey useful information. A more sustainable reason than ego must be found for Riri's total disdain for the world of law-abiding people, and we probably do need a reason for the world of law-abiding people having no interest in her. It would also help enormously if something Riri did in her past, perhaps something related to her father's death, was A, wrong, B, formative, and C, explanatory, since a single past mistake could encompass a lot of the missing ingredients I've just listed. In short, arrange the father's death just so, and we have an explanation for why she is so unlikable at the beginning of this show, and hopefully a clear destination in mind when she goes on a moral journey away from that position. She has to redeem not just her present-day unpleasantness, but her past mistake. I have no faith whatsoever that they will do any such thing, but it is quite easy to see ways to improve the show. And fuck it, we've got to keep up some sort of pretense that we're seriously reviewing it rather than just picking on the mentally ill. I absolutely refuse to commit to finishing this series because I have about 50,000 more important things I could be doing. Then again, I didn't commit to finishing She-Hulk or Velma, and we saw how that panned out. You know, sometimes we all just need a little bit of light-hearted trauma bonding. It can't all be 4-hour plot breakdowns, though there are more of those on the horizon. This means you'll either see me next on the second channel for a quick 28 years later review, or on this channel in a few days for Ironheart episode 2, or on this channel in a couple of weeks for the next of what I would consider the main videos, Jurassic World Afterbirth. We shall see, and I shall see you in the next one. Ta-ta.